Hello everyone, it's Jen, Scrapbena Creations. Welcome back to another project for heffydoodle. Today's card features the stamp set Home Sweet Home. It has some great sentiments like welcome home, we've moved, there's no place like home, and others. I'm also going to be using the stitched Slimline Trio die set to create this card. So let's jump into the coloring. I'm going to color a couple of the houses with you today. I do have a color map with all the colors used in the card today at the end of the video, and you can also find that on the corresponding blog post over at heffydoodle. So to start, I'm going to have some fun colored houses. I'm using B04 as my darkest, B02 as my darkest mid-tone, B00 as my lightest mid-tone, and then my lightest color is the B000. For the blue, I did put down a light coat of the B000. I just find it can sometimes give you a bit better of a blend. Then I went in with the darkest marker and then working my way now back down through to the lightest. So I'm adding the shading under the awning of the house and under the roof and then down the sides of the house. And I'm going to have the highlight in the center of the house. So I thought it would be fun to color up some of these houses in some bright colors. This stamp set, I adore it. I actually just moved, so it's coming in quite fitting for some thank you cards and some cards to give to my neighbors. This one is going to be a congratulations on your new home. So for the secondary color of the house, I'm going to use greens. So for this, I'm just going to do a 3-color blend. My darkest is YG17, the midtone is YG25, and then the lightest is YG03. So just adding those darkest colors to the bottom of the roof and then the bottom of the awning as well. I did forget, I was going to color the trim there on the awning in the lightest green, and then I decided actually when I forgot to color it that I would leave it white, and I really like the way that looks. So for the second house, I'm going to use a pink color combination, and I'm going back to a 4-color blend here. So I'm just going to use the darkest marker very sparingly just underneath the roof and to the side of the house. So for that, I'm using RV19. My darkest midtone is the RV34, and then the lightest midtone, R83, and the lightest color for the highlight in the center will be RV11. I love this tall little house. It's just so cute. So for the color of the roof and the door, I'm actually going to use yellow. I thought that complemented the pink nicely. And again, going back to a 3-color blend. So these areas were quite a bit smaller than the house itself. So I didn't feel like it needed 4 colors, and you don't need 4 colors anyways. So a 2 or 3-color blend is just fine. So I'm using Y15 as my darkest, Y13 as my midtone, and then Y11 as the lightest. For the doorstep, I'm using C3, and then I'm bringing in C1 for the little trim there. For the windows, I'm using BG10 and just kind of doing an upward stroke, and then I'm going to bring in the colorless blender, which is the 0, just to blend that and push that color back a little bit. So I'm going to use the coordinating dies here to cut out all of the pieces for my mini scenes today. So I'm going to be creating 3 mini scenes on 1 card. So I've used my heffydoodle memo tape here just to kind of loosely stick together the trio dies that cuts out the little rounded squares, and then also to cut out a stitched line for my white panel here. Now I'm going to use a little bit of ink blending. I'm using Tumbled glass for the sky. For one of the squares, the top one, I just need it to be all blue. You're not going to see the bottom. And then for the middle one, I'm just going to do a diagonal because I'm going to have the little moving truck diagonal on the road in that little square for that scene. And for the third one, I just need a little bit of green. Now, I was way too heavy-handed when I put my brush here into my twisted Citron. So it's a little bit darker than I wanted, but that's fine. Most of the background is going to be covered up by the images anyways. So here's all the images. I've laid them out and I'm going to play around and create my little mini scenes. So these are so fun to do, especially on a slimline size die. It gives you the opportunity to use a lot of your images on a single card. So I'm working on the middle one first just because it was the easiest. So I'm using the road, which is so fun, and I love that the die cuts it out perfectly. So as you can see, I have that a bit on a slant, and then I'm going to add my moving truck on top of the road. I am just going to add a little bit of cardstock there so that the truck top is level with the bottom that's on the road. And then I can just loosely place that where it's going to be. And for this top one, I don't want the bush or the tree or anything to be coming on to the white, but I do, for my little scenes, I'm going to have both of the houses kind of peeking over a little bit from my little background square there, but I do want to get placement, so I just had that with the house so I could see that, and then I will trim up the bush there to the side. This little sign is absolutely adorable. There's stamps that say sold, for sale, and I think the third one is, new home. So you can stamp whatever you want on the inside. So cute. I chose to use the sold sentiment or word. And of course, I got my fingers in the Versafine Clair ink. I'm famous for that. Just using a white eraser quickly, once you notice the ink smudging, really makes a difference. It completely takes it off of your cardstock. So now I'm just going to add the sold sign, and I thought about tucking it behind the bush, but I thought it looked a lot better to the front. And I'm not going to adhere my houses until I have this on my card base. So I'm just going to now work on the bottom little mini scene. And what I love about these little bushes is they also work perfectly for clouds. So get creative with the images in your stamp sets, and hopefully you can find multiple ways to use them. These are great for just filling in the areas where you might not have an image, and just adds that perfect touch for a little mini scene. So just want to make sure there's no gap between those clouds. And then where it's hanging over that square, I will trim that off. So for this little mini scene, I have the blue house, and then I colored up the little car from the stamp set in yellow. And I'm just going to tuck that actually behind the house so it looks like it's parked in the driveway. Super cute. So I'm just going to adhere the little truck on, or the car, sorry. And then I can move on to creating the rest of the card. So I chose some raspberry cardstock. It's kind of like a raspberry color. It's really pretty. It's coming off a bit more pink in the video, but I'm just going to adhere down my Slimline Trio panel to that cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add adhesive to the back of my little squares with my mini scenes. If you wanted extra dimension, you could definitely pop these up and that would look really cute as well. But I decided to go for a flat, easy mailing card. So I'm going to get my little squares in place, and I didn't like that you could see the white line underneath the bush. So I decided to make it look like a sidewalk. So I used my C3 Copic marker. I just put a scratch piece of cardstock underneath that so I didn't get it on to the card panel. And now I can go ahead and do the final steps here, adding my houses to the scene. So you can see that the houses are the only things that are overlapping those little squares. So I'm just trying to create consistency between the house on the top left and the house on the bottom right. I'm going to add the sentiment New Home on the moving truck, just doing that with a stamp block and my Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I'm going to add some glossy accents to all of the windows in the vehicles and on the house. Now I thought I was done there, but I turned off the camera and I felt like it needed something else. So I grabbed out the Wavy banner sentiments and I stamped out the Congratulations with some of the Razzleberry cardstock and the coordinating die, and I think that finished off the card perfectly. So there's a look at the color map with all the Copic markers. All the products I used in today's video will be linked below. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fabulous day and I'll see you really soon. Bye!